reason I'm riding this today, basically got everything to do with C-Fly Fisher. He's been really insisting I ride one of these just so I can get a feel of a proper naked motorbike after riding the big RT, which he describes as a big old bus. So a different kind of motorcycle for me. Probably the closest I ever got to this, I'd say, will probably be the R9T, or maybe the S1000XR BMW, but I think this is probably quite unique actually, so looking forward to taking her out. So I shall repeat the same route and we'll see how we get on. So your first impression on the monster after riding an RT or a Multistrada is, do you feel like you're looking over the edge of a cliff? Because there's virtually nothing in front of you. I guess that's the idea of a naked bike, isn't it? Can't see a lot through the mirrors. I think this is probably why people fit bar ends. So when you drop your elbow you can actually see backwards, so it looks like that's got to be the technique. And you sort of sit very much sort of leaning forward, but not uncomfortably so. And again, you know, just to my sort of vital statistics, I'm just over 6 feet tall, 6.5 an inch. Inside leg measurements is is 33 inches. And again, the same problem I had on the Multistrada, that neutral isn't easy to find. And I'm straight into a 30 zone. So yeah, she feels very comfortable actually. I've got to say, I'm not used to riding with my legs tucked underneath me, but doesn't feel too bad. I've got to say I feel very comfortable on this. Not too much weight on my arms, wrists, hands, and that's even at 30 miles an hour. So I'm guessing as you pick the speed up and you start to pick up the air resistance on your upper body, that even that will probably reduce away to nothing. And the bike in touring mode. Again, nothing fancy today. The road surface is still quite slick from when I rode the Multistrada earlier on, but drying out a little. So this would be, if the Multistrada is the sort of sensible choice that I make with my head, this should be the, I guess the sort of rather daring choice I'd make with my heart. We approach the national speed limit. And away. Okay, so very clean air over my helmet, no turbulence. The Monster S has the benefit of this little bikini fairing. I'm not quite sure what difference that makes. Not much, I guess, but I'm sitting in a very clean airstream at the moment. Little pop there from the engine. It sounds like a motorbike, this, even with the standard cans on it. Yeah, so the closest thing I've ridden to this so far in my back to biking 2 years is the R9T. That sort of same sense of looking over the edge of the cliff, the same sense there's nothing in front of you, the engine noise, and the lack of a fairing. I suppose if I had to think of one word to describe it so far, it's compact. Physically it's a lot smaller than the RT. Maybe even 2/3 the size. And I'm a reasonably big bloke. Okay, so we've got horses and a left-hander coming up. It's quite a big decision this for me. I can afford both machines. Well, not to own both, but to own one of them. I can afford either, let's put it that way. Well, 60 miles an hour, you really feel the airflow supporting your body, takes the weight off your arms. Just give this lorry plenty of space. Yeah, so a different kind of review this for the those of you following monster reviews, because you know, a lot of blokes like myself, you know, we don't tend to want to throw the machine round. We could have been in a lower gear around that corner. But yeah, we just want to know whether we can ride one of these really. Yeah, it goes very well around the corners, obviously. Again, just conscious it's not my machine. I just want to take care of it today. We got not particularly easy road conditions, quite a lot of glare and mud and Buckinghamshire roads. I think this is the bike I'd probably have to learn. Getting onto the Multistrada felt, I've felt very, what's the word? Similar actually to the RT. This will just lighter, more agile, but a similar kind of bike. You know, sort of big, a lot of fairing in front of you. A lot of weight, probably 230 kilos, something like that, whereas this is probably nearer the 200 kilo mark and physically a lot smaller, and she's going to handle differently, isn't she? Well, comparable engine braking to the RT and the Multistrada. And eminently flickable. I think another word that springs to mind is the fact thoroughbred. You know, this just feels like an absolute thoroughbred. And of course, you know, those of you familiar with the Monster will recognise that it's got a lot of the sort of Ducati heritage built in, hasn't it? The Panigale brakes and so forth, and shock absorbers, Öhlins and so forth. Just lacks the fairing really. But then you get the joy of the air flowing over you. Yeah, you've got to tuck your right elbow in when you want to look through the right hand mirror. And this road surface isn't great, but the Monster's just eating it up. It's quite bobbly, but the machine is just sticking to its line beautifully. So comfort wise, 20 minutes in, very comfortable. It's quite a big seat actually. But for my 60-year-old backside, no problem. I think just got to get used to a different riding position. Whereas on the RT you tend to sort of sit more upright, maybe leaning slightly forward. Then on this you are leaning forward, so there is some weight on your arms and your wrists. Yeah, these roads are slippery. Hasn't rained for a while, so we've got this sort of mud mixed in with the dew and the melted ice from overnight, so it's not a great surface, to be honest. But certainly enough to what's the word? I've certainly got enough of the bike to be able to get the feel of it. I think just the character. As I say, this is a bike I'd probably have to spend at least a couple of months learning, I think. And again, I guess if you sort of follow my channel back to the bike, then you're used to sort of seeing the instrument display in front of me. And again, I'm just not quite sure whether the camera will be picking it up with the fact that you sort of tend to sit a lot closer to the dash on the, a lot closer to the front of the bike on a naked machine like the Monster. But were I to buy a bike like this, I would make sure that you could see my dashboard somehow. I'll fix something up. Bike skittering there over a very slimy surface. Okay, so we're coming into Padbury. My ancestors buried in the churchyard here. Some of you may remember last Remembrance Day I did a little film about the fallen. So yeah, my father's side of the family from Padbury. His mum came from here. Whoa! Well, that's a bit different to the RT. Not saying the RT couldn't overtake there, but felt like I was going into walk power. There's quite a lot of waggle on this actually. It's I don't know whether it's sort of poorly adjusted or not, but it's sometimes I've really got to reach for it. I think this one does have the quick shifter fitted on it. Not quite sure whether that's standard on the Monster S, I can't remember. You don't get the quick shifter on the Monstrada as standard, you have to have it fitted as a mod. Okay, so just starting to get a little bit of a feel now for the Monster. Been out 20 minutes or so. So riding position comfortable, backside feels comfortable, just a little bit of weight on the arms, which tends to lift off once you get above sort of 40-45 miles an hour actually. And into the sticks again, headed south. So as we're headed into the sun again, I can't see the white lines on the road particularly well. So the air temperature's up to about 6 or 7 degrees, and it's interesting actually with these held Quattro Tempi gloves. My hands are actually quite toasty. Not even thought about having cold hands. One of the factors, you know, can the Monster be ridden in the winter? I guess most sensible Monster owners just put them away in the garage, don't they, with a blanket and a saucer of milk, but I ride my bikes all year. So I am just becoming aware now on the Monster of my sort of left knee, so my legs are more bent underneath me than they were on the Multistrada, and they certainly are on my RT. And there is just a, so what are we in, probably 30 minutes or so now, just a slight discomfort behind that left knee, just with the fact that I have to keep it bent. Is that an issue? Would that stop me riding more than an hour or two? I don't know. Not as young as I used to be. One of those things you get used to. Again, if you ride a naked bike, I'm curious. Do you get used to riding in a crunched up position? Lovely clean sound of air just flowing around the crash helmet actually. No turbulence at all. Well, these corners are fun. Lots of patches and gravel and then smooth bits and then potholes. But I've got to say the bike's just eating it up actually. So, for those of you who've never actually ridden one of these before, it feels very compact. Certainly no lack of get up and go. More than I would ever use. So at this sort of speed there's just no weight at all on your wrists. Well, I've got to imagine myself on a day, haven't I, in July. You can see some lovely corners here, but the road surface isn't great and it's quite damp. So the big question is, could I see myself on one of these? So not as comfortable as the Multistrada, the knee issue, and the fact you do have some weight on your wrists. I imagine on a warm summer's day, then there's some nice bends in front of you. And I know the Multistrada can deal with that as well. This is just totally different. Just starting to feel a bit of a tightness in my sort of neck and shoulder area as well. Got to say, this is the easiest bike I've ever ridden for going around corners. You barely have to think about it. Which I guess is what it's for. I'll tell you what, cars disappear very quickly in your rear view mirrors. Car had caught me up there as they normally do in the 30 zone, but came into the national speed limit and he's gone. So very comfortable in terms of the airflow at speed, I've got to say. And even with the stock exhaust, I've got to say the engine sounds like a symphony orchestra in full blow. So my question mark over the Monster is it's a lovely bike, but practically, with the tightness in my knee and it's obviously not as comfortable as the Multistrada. Could I live with it? Now, on the basis that probably 95% of my riding is actually B roads anyway, and probably an hour and a half, then the Monster is eminently practical for that. So would the Multistrada be a compromise? In the sense that you know, it's yes, a lot of people see it as a touring bike, but actually you listen to motorcycle news describing it, they describe it as a sports tourer. And if I bought the Monster, then I would have a new challenge, and the challenge would be learning to ride a naked sports bike. And I think I mentioned on my previous couple of videos ago that when I was looking at the requirements how to buy a new bike, but I do like a new challenge. I get a bit bored with what I call paint by numbers motorcycling. I like a quest. I like to learn something new. So I think sometimes I find when I test ride I can make an immediate decision actually about yeah, that's the bike I'm going to have, but I think in this case I'm certainly going to have to reflect on this, I think. Because I think they're all two beautiful machines, but with distinct personalities. To describe it in aeroplane terms, I'd describe the Multistrada as a Mosquito. Two-engine bomber. Could be a fighter. Can go long distances. Not sure how much more comfortable it was than a Spitfire, but if you look at the look at the Monster's a fighter aircraft. Oh, back to Aylesbury Ducati. I'm past Westcott, where my father used to fly the Lancaster into, bringing the Italian prisoners, bringing the British POWs back from Italy, 1945. So, impressions just sitting on it. Feet are flat on the ground. Could I get used to the comfort? Big decision. Just try manhandling. Okay, so yeah, manhandling much easier than the Multistrada. And bear in mind, one of my requirements now is for something that's a little bit lighter, a little bit more agile. Okay, so that's the engine kill switch. Gotta say, the whole quality of the Italian bikes, whether it's the Multistrada I've just ridden there or the Monster 1200S I've just ridden here, just exudes quality. Just the quality of the paintwork and the little emblems on it, Italian flag. It's beautiful, really. So yeah, this is clearly a much easier bike to move around.